Hey, 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 welcome back to the channel. Before you scroll away or click on another video, I need you to hear this for just a moment. There's a man from Busan, South Korea. He doesn't just dance like water, fluid, powerful, flawless. He doesn't just sing with a voice that sends chills down your spine. He also writes songs, and not just ordinary lyrics either. He writes songs that made the entire global music industry, from Billboard to the Grammys, stop dead in their tracks and ask, who is this? His name? Park Jimin, or as most of you know him, Jimin of BTS. Today we are going to break it all down. How Jimin, a man once known only as a dancer and vocalist, proved to the entire world that he is a world-class songwriter, and why the music industry can no longer ignore that talent. Ready? Let's get into it. If you're just getting to know Jimin, the first image that probably comes to mind is the choreography of Fake Love or his gentle, velvety vocals on Serendipity. That makes complete sense. Those are the things the media highlights most. But here's what many people don't realize. Jimin is one of the K-pop idols with the most songwriting credits registered at KOMCA, the Korea Music Copyright Association. His name is officially listed on nearly 20 songs, and that number keeps growing. His songwriting journey started much earlier than most people think. As far back as 2013, the very year BTS debuted, Jimin was already getting involved in the creative process of the group's music. Not just offering casual suggestions, but genuinely sitting down, thinking deeply, and pouring his emotions into lyrics. What sets Jimin's approach to songwriting apart from many other idols is emotional depth. He doesn't write to sound cool. He doesn't write to land a catchy hook on the charts. He writes because there is something he absolutely needs to say, a feeling, an experience, a truth that cannot be expressed in any other way. And that is precisely what makes fans and music critics alike fall completely in love with his work. Let's rewind for a moment to 2016. BTS released the album Wings, and one of the tracks that grabbed the most attention was Lie, Jimin's solo song. Now, this is not a cheerful song. This is not the kind of song you nod along to casually over lunch. This song is dark, intense, and absolutely full of internal conflict. The theme? Someone trapped inside their own lies. Someone who cannot escape themselves, no matter how desperately they want to. Fans immediately felt that something deeply personal was at the heart of this song. And they were right. Jimin was directly involved in shaping the concept and the emotional world that was poured into that track. Its profound meaning immediately earned praise from both fans and critics for Jimin's ability to express nuanced, layered lyrics that hit differently every time you listen. Fast forward to 2018, Jimin released something that genuinely caught everyone off guard. Promise, Jungkook. This wasn't released as part of an official album. He simply uploaded it to SoundCloud for free as a gift to his fans. The result? Promise broke a SoundCloud record as the fastest song to reach 1 million streams in the platform's history at that time. But it wasn't the record that made people weep. It was the lyrics. Jimin wrote this song based on deeply personal experiences, about internal struggles, about the moments where he was his own harshest critic, about a promise he wanted to make, not to anyone else, but to himself, that he would love himself more and learn to forgive himself. A theme so universal that millions of people around the world felt the song had been written specifically for them. That is the power of a true songwriter. Not someone who writes about the masses, but someone who writes honestly about themselves, so deeply and so truthfully that the whole world can feel it. In 2020, BTS released the album Map of the Soul, 7, and one song went instantly viral within the fandom for its irresistible sweetness. Friends, a duet between Jimin and Kim Taehyung. What makes this song so special? Jimin was the one behind the writing. And it wasn't casual. This was a song written specifically to capture the friendship between him and two people who had been close friends since their trainee days together at Big Hit. The lyrics touch on small, incredibly real moments. Walking to school together, memories from the early debut days, shared dreams, hopes for the future. No cliches, no dramatic overstatement. Just simple, honest, and because of that, deeply moving. There is a sentiment running through the song about wanting to keep making memories together far into the future. And when you hear both of their voices singing that, two genuine best friends who truly care about each other, It feels like witnessing something rare and completely authentic in an entertainment industry that doesn't always make room for that kind of sincerity. Music critics called Friends one of the most heartfelt songs in the entire BTS catalog. And that's not by accident, because Jimin wrote it from the most honest place he could find. Alright, now we get to the chapter that truly changed everything. February 2023. Jimin released his very first solo album, Face. This was not just a typical solo debut. This was an artistic statement. And the most remarkable thing? Jimin was involved in writing every single song on that album. 6 tracks, including one interlude. All of them carry Jimin's fingerprint as a writer. This album didn't just happen. Jimin thought deeply about the concept, the theme, the emotional arc. The big idea at the heart of Face? Confronting yourself. Removing the mask. Accepting the parts of yourself you've hidden away or ignored for too long. The first single released was Set Me Free PT2, and the reaction was immediate and massive. With its extraordinary lyrics and choreography, the song debuted at number 30 on the US Billboard Hot 100. On top of that, it reached number 1 on iTunes worldwide in over 100 countries. But the real peak? Like Crazy. Released on March 24th, 2023, this synth-pop gem hypnotized listeners from the moment it dropped. And then something happened that had never happened before in the history of Korean music. Like Crazy climbed all the way to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 on April 4th, 2023. Park Jimin became the first South Korean solo artist ever to top the Billboard Hot 100. And he did it with a song he co-wrote, built on a concept he developed, and fueled by emotions he genuinely lived through. Think about what that means. The entire history of Korean music, from K-pop's very first footprint on the global radar, through the Hallyu Wave, through the BTS phenomenon, and the first Korean solo artist to conquer the most prestigious chart in the world was Jimin, with an album he wrote himself. Billboard, Rolling Stone, the Grammys, and every major music outlet in the world lined up to give their reviews. And every single one pointed to the same thing: the depth and authenticity of his writing. At this point, I want us to pause for a second and really understand why Jimin's songwriting is so widely celebrated. Because honestly, plenty of K-pop idols are involved in writing songs, but not all of them receive this level of attention from the industry. So what makes Jimin different? The first thing is unfiltered honesty. Jimin doesn't write to meet expectations. He doesn't write about what fans want to hear or what will sound cool on a playlist. He writes about what he is genuinely feeling: anxiety, self-doubt, longing, joy, love. And the courage to be that honest in front of millions of people? That is not a small thing. The second is thematic depth. Jimin's songs are never shallow. Even the ones that sound light on the surface, like Smeraldo Garden Marching Band, hold deeper layers of meaning when you take the time to look. From references to the BTS universe's lore, to the symbolism of the Smeraldo flower representing an unspoken truth. Every detail is chosen with intention. The third is his ability to connect the personal with the universal. This is the rarest skill in songwriting. Many writers can describe personal experiences, but very few can make them feel relevant to millions of people from completely different backgrounds and walks of life. Jimin can. Promise was about him forgiving himself, and yet millions of people cried because they felt it for themselves. That is the mark of a truly extraordinary writer. The fourth is smart collaboration. Jimin knows how to work with other creatives. On both Face and Muse, he partnered with some of the best producers in the game, but always made sure that his own voice and vision were powerfully present in every track. He is not passive. He actively leads the creative direction of his own music. If Face was Jimin opening himself up, then Muse is Jimin celebrating his life. Released on July 19, 2024, while Jimin was still serving his mandatory military service, his second solo album immediately captured the world's attention. And the numbers? They speak entirely for themselves. Muse debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, making Jimin the first K-pop soloist in history to place in the top 2 of the Billboard 200 with 2 separate albums. A record no one had ever achieved before. Over 771,000 copies were sold in the very first week alone. The album also debuted at number 3 on Japan's Oricon Albums chart with over 83,000 physical copies sold. But beyond the numbers, it was the music itself that left everyone stunned. Jimin is credited as a co-writer on 6 of the 7 tracks on Muse. And this time, he also stepped into the role of co-producer on 2 of those tracks. Meaning it wasn't just the lyrics. The musical arrangements, the sonic textures, the overall atmosphere of the album were all within his creative control. Billboard's review noted that the songwriting across Muse felt intimate and introspective, while the album as a whole showcased Jimin as a genre-less artist, not confined by any single genre, but moving freely between R&B, light hip-hop, Latin, and Afrobeat influences. Grammy.com dedicated a full feature to the album titled 5 Takeaways from BTS Jimin's Muse, highlighting Jimin's artistic growth and versatility as the most striking aspect of the record. The lead single, Who, produced by American A-list producer Jon Bellion, went on to become the second longest charting K-pop solo song in the history of the UK official singles chart, surpassed only by PSY's Gangnam Style. It also earned a gold certification from Brit, the British phonographic industry, the first time a K-pop male solo song had achieved that since PSY. Let that sink in. On the same level as PSY in the UK. That is not something to take lightly. And on Spotify, Muse was named the #1 most streamed album in Korea for 2025, meaning a full year after its release, the album was still dominating the entire country. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, the numbers are impressive, but are people in the actual music industry genuinely praising his songwriting abilities? The answer is yes. Emphatically, Billboard, arguably the most authoritative voice in the global music industry, didn't just report his records. They placed Jimin in the context of a major shift happening within K-pop. There is a new generation of Korean artists who are no longer simply following the formula given to them by their labels, but who are genuinely leading their own artistic visions. And Jimin has been named as one of the most prominent pioneers of that shift. Both British and American music publications have highlighted how Jimin, despite beginning his career primarily as a dancer and vocalist, has evolved into a complete artist, where his ability to write is not just a bonus feature, but the very core of his artistic identity. His collaboration with Jon Bellion on Who says a great deal on its own. Jon Bellion is a producer and songwriter who has worked with artists like Justin Timberlake and Blink-182. The fact that he chose to collaborate with Jimin, and that the result was a song that succeeded enormously both commercially and critically, signals recognition from the Western music professional community that Jimin is a genuine creative equal, not just a big K-pop name attached to a single. And the collaboration with Sophia Carson on Slow Dance. Sophia is a Disney actress and singer known for being extremely selective about the projects she takes on. Their duet on Muse received widespread praise for its stunning vocal harmony and the warmth and sincerity woven into every line of the writing. We've talked a lot about numbers and awards, but let me take a moment to talk about something more personal. Within the BTS fan community, ARMY, there are thousands upon thousands of stories about how songs that Jimin wrote have literally changed someone's life. People have said Promise was the song that carried them through the darkest period they've ever experienced. People have said Like Crazy was the song they played on repeat when the world stopped making sense. People have found the courage to forgive themselves after sitting with the lyrics of Lie. And none of that is a coincidence. It is the direct result of songwriting that comes from a place of honesty and depth. When an artist writes from the most authentic place within themselves, that work carries the power to reach the deepest place within the listener too. That is what Jimin does. Not through a formula, not through a marketing strategy, but through the courage to be completely, vulnerably honest. And in a music industry that often feels like a factory, where songs are constructed based on trends, algorithms, and commercial calculations, that kind of honesty is a rare and profoundly valuable thing. As of May 2026, Jimin has completed his mandatory military service, which was scheduled to wrap up in June 2025, and is now preparing to return fully alongside BTS. BTS has already announced a new album and a world tour. And with all members back together, including Jimin, the expectations from both the industry and the fans are at an all-time high. But what is genuinely fascinating is that regardless of BTS, Jimin as a solo artist and songwriter now holds his own distinct and powerful identity. He is no longer simply one of the members of BTS. He is Park Jimin, a solo artist who has carved his own name into Billboard history, Grammy coverage, and the Conquer registry. And if his 2 solo albums are any indication, then whatever comes next, whether solo or alongside BTS, will only continue to solidify his position as one of the most important songwriters of his entire generation. So, everyone, that is the incredible story of how Jimin's songwriting abilities have come to be praised by the global music industry. From Lie, in 2016, which first revealed the emotional depth he carries as a writer, to Promise, which broke SoundCloud records with its completely unfiltered honesty, all the way to Face, which sent him to the top of the Billboard Hot 100 as the first Korean soloist ever to do it, and Muse, which cemented his standing as a complete world-class artist, singer, dancer, and songwriter all in one. Jimin is not simply an idol who can write songs. He is a genuine artist who uses his writing as a window into his soul, and the world cannot stop watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like, subscribe, and share this with anyone who needs to know just how extraordinary Jimin is as a songwriter. Drop a comment below. Which Jimin song has touched your heart the most? See you in the next one. Purple Heart, Annyeong.